So the thing that is interesting that Neville talks about is imagining for others.
Yeah.
And he has some beautiful stories where he's imagined helping people find lost items or find money. And that's a lot of his discussion. So people may take that and think, oh, I can imagine bad things for my boss. And so I had somebody the other day that was like, I really don't like my boss and I want to imagine something terrible happening for him. And I was like, if you do that,
Yeah.
you're going to imagine something terrible happening for yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you are him pushed out, you're going to imagine it through yourself first. And so I would be really careful about imagining bad things for other people.
Oh, that's where you like double foot slam the brake pedal in the car. It's like, I can't stop fast enough. Oh, no.
Right.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. I agree with you 100%. That is, it is a dangerous way to go about things. Those things are reflected back on yourself. And oftentimes it is some of those people that don't realize. I mean, it's something I've taught is try to imagine the best outcome. If you've literally got a boss and they really have to go because there's no way you can find a different job, right? If that is how it has to be, then find something awesome that they get to move on to. Move their life in a direction that they're going to be fond of. And believe it or not, you might actually see it happen. But yeah, wishing horrible things on people, they're going to get that energy and be like, yeah, no, I don't want that, right? That thought pops into their head and they're like, no, I'm not going to do that.
I have this theory. There's an energetic exchange. If I imagine lovingly for somebody, it's like a part of them knows I did it.
Oh, for
even
sure.
Even if they don't end up having that, what I imagined for them, it's like there's a part of them that says, thanks, man. I can see that you imagined for me, and I'm more interested in talking to you. I noticed there's an energetic exchange on another level where I have a closer connection to them. And when somebody is imagined lovingly for me, I can feel it too, and I feel a bond or connection. Am I getting to something?
Well,
Does that make
yeah, I think totally. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been thinking about someone and then suddenly you get a phone call from them or you suddenly get a text from them? It's happened a bunch of times, I bet, hasn't it?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that proves the energy connection. I call it thought transmissions, but ultimately it proves it. And so one thing that's hard for people is they think that our thoughts are secret. And they're not. Our thoughts are broadcast to everybody. Right. And that freaks some people out. Truly, they're like, and it's like, don't worry about it. Everybody's cool with everybody's thoughts. Trust me, we all have some crazy thoughts. Trust me.
How much of our thoughts are our own thoughts? How many times are we getting thoughts that are actually somebody else's thoughts? And we just think that they're our own thoughts, right?
So you bring up a good thing. There's been times for sure where I have come up with what I thought was a good idea, and then maybe like a day or two later, I'm seeing a Saturday Night Live episode that's doing this crazy thing, but no one else is talking about it. And I know I didn't come up with it first. It's that thing. Like, oh, that was my idea. It's like, no, I think there were little spikes where a lot of people that are sensitive to certain things, whatever it might be, pick up that frequency and harmony, and suddenly they're aware of that thought. I do think there's what they call the infinite intelligence. It's the thing that knows everything. Everything is known. There's no original thought that any one of us are going to have that's not been had to some degree. But it's our ability to tap into that becomes essential. And so, yeah, my thought, someone else's thought, doesn't really matter.
Right. What you're saying is true. I'm more and more, when I have a really cool, unique thought, I'm starting to think, there's about 30 or 40 people that probably had the same thought. I need to go and take advantage and take action on this thought. It's kind of motivated me to think, this is a part of the group consciousness now, and we'll see if somebody can take this idea and move it to the next level. That what you're saying kind of verifies that a little bit.
One thing that's funny too, that some people, and this is stuff I've read through all sorts of crazy materials, and I don't know if you've ever taken any sorts of science, but just to use a great example, like kinetic energy, right? If I remember correctly, it's like mv squared. You square the velocity. When it comes to actually these thoughts and feelings, like supposedly the number of people that have it kind of almost like squares or has that same similar kind of effect on the overall energy of that concept. So to your point, like if you can help get a lot of people kind of feeling and thinking in a similar way, you literally can move mountains. It's
like you said in the episode where you were referencing Art Bell's experiment.
Yeah.
Where a big group of people tried to move a storm, right?
Yeah, it freaked him out because it was so horrendous what ended up happening afterwards. They're like, that was a success and a failure all in this, like, and if I remember correctly, his big thing was yeah, sometimes nature needs to do what nature needs to do, and we shouldn't get in the way.
We shouldn't get in the way. There might be something to that, but we can create group consciousness through our YouTube channels, which is exciting. You know, even if 100 people watch a video, it's exciting that 100 people watch a video, and we can raise their awareness, and maybe that'll move them towards what we're talking about. That's what is so exciting when we do this.
Well, one thing that I think might be fun, especially with your kind of concept of channel and my kind of concept of channel, and maybe some others if we know any. I certainly know someone that might be fun to join, but there are ways to do. I believe, like we could do a meeting like we're doing right here, and actually all of us simultaneously broadcast on our live
we
channels.
could do it, yeah.
And do a live. You do a live on yours. I'm doing a live on mine. You know, and that way all of our little individual audiences, and we're brought together at the exact same time, and we could do some pretty cool stuff. And,
I think
and really help
we
people.
should figure out a way to do that.
Oh, absolutely. I've played with it a little bit, and I know you can do it. And the best way, if you want to practice, and not to get too off, but is if you can mess with the video in private. You can do live streamings to private, and so no one has to see it. And yeah, you can test a lot of stuff. But yeah, ultimately that would be awesome to do. Get a lot of people on the same page and see if we can like try to affect a lot of people. And one other thing, and I'm bringing it up now because it's something I was talking about, and I think it might work for the same concept. But I wanted to do a thing basically under this called Prepare a Place. And we prepare a place in space and time, you know, and the one I'm planning on doing is June 6th. And then I'm going to have a thing where, you know, people can communicate, or we can do a live show, or however I want to, you know, interact it that way. But it's a place to come in. And since we're planning and preparing a place, it's like, where's your manifestation going to be? And I want people to come and share their success stories for where they're at this place. And it's like a bunch of people
preparing. They can imagine June 6th saying, oh, this is what happened to me.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And then we come in and we actually do a live show at that date and time and get people to come in and share. And maybe they share them with their emails, and we make sure all the people's emails that we're going to read are there. And then they can chime in. And so, again, a whole lot of fun interacting stuff that we can do to get a lot of people on the same page at the same time.
I'm so excited. I think we've come upon something with the combination of our channels and everybody that's listening, and any other YouTubers. We could get something together like a reality revolution of some kind.
Absolutely. And I agree. And we can do it radio style. You know what I mean?
We can do it radio style.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean, and one thing that is kind of a benefit is you and I actually live very close to each other geographically. So we might even be able to do some stuff in person together, which could make it very fun as well. So maybe we do some sort of weird dual stream at the same time and just have a couple cameras piping in.
Sounds great.
Again, I think it'd be a blast. We should definitely do that. Yeah.
So let's talk about the specific person. At some point in time, I had a video where I said, hey, Neville's talking about how the perfect state of marriage. And I evoked an angry backlash, and people would put comments, hey, he doesn't believe in the specific person, as if I had, destroyed their world. And I was like, no, I'm still a student. And I know you can manifest a specific person. I've seen it. I've had experiences in my life. We'll talk about it two aspects of it. First, I want to talk about Neville. Clearly, Neville has an association. People that talk about the specific person are also incredibly interested in Neville, as if Neville was teaching that. So I want to talk about that. Then I want to talk about, can we manifest a specific person? So those are the two things I want to talk with you. You've talked about it a little bit in some interviews and some other shows. And so, I mean, we all want to feel loved, and you've talked about some examples in your relationship. We all want to find that love, and in my experience, as you know, people will start contacting you when you do have a channel like this. And the most popular, I need to help. Please help me find my specific person. I want to help them. And my first response is, I want to help them. So first of all, let's talk about Neville. Is your belief that Neville is saying you can manifest a specific person by using his method?
So that is definitely a filter that I've applied to his readings, at least as far as trying to find that. Like anytime that pops up in his literature, I'm like, I want it to jump out like a highlighter. I've not seen that. It's kind of like the us pushed out thing. He actually says everything is you
Everything. He doesn't
pushed
say
out, not
everybody, right.
everyone. So that's again a misquote. I'm hoping to find it. Again, I've said the same thing about everyone as you pushed out. I'm like, please share with me where the quote is, because I want to see it in writing or hear him say it. And everyone keeps sharing stuff with me that talks about everything. And I'm like, that's what I've been saying.
Right.
So one thing that people tend to relate when they talk about the manifesting a specific person is him and the ex-wife thing, where he got a divorce and she got a divorce and they ended up together. And I'm like, well, yeah, they both wanted to be with each other and they both were in bad marriages. That's like, so not like rocket science there. I mean, that happens every day without necessarily using law of attraction. But what I do think we do is we can manifest an attractive energy to, one, stand out in someone's mind, two, bring us into geographic location, three, be able to set up a situation where you can further a relationship. Now, I think a lot of people, and I don't know, some of it's whatever, the way life is today with technology, but I think some people don't quite understand that relationships do evolve through conversations, hanging out. Like, it takes time.
Right.
It's not like you just like somebody on Instagram and you see a picture and we're together now. It's really not how relationships work. So I think there's a false kind of understanding there. I think we sometimes, I feel like I'm losing my train of thought on that.
No, I get what you're saying. So from my interpretation so far, and I'm still going through all of his books and literature, there's the lecture on power, and he talks about meeting his ex-wife and how she would feel his ring and think of his name. There's the lecture on brazen impudence, which he's talking about more of that past relationship. He was already with her, and he just really wanted to marry her. Yeah. It's more about the marriage part.
I've had personal experiences in the past where I've been able to connect with people on a very powerful level, and through some circumstances it's not been able to evolve. Through sometimes others it's like, ooh, I don't want it to evolve. And so again, there's a whole slew, but yeah, you can attract people towards you for sure. Can you make them do things? No, I do. I frequently say, and I know it frustrates a lot of people, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Perfect example. So if I really want to meet Sharon Stone, if I really focused on it a lot,
you could totally meet her
in her vicinity.
For sure.
It doesn't necessarily
you
mean
might even get to shake her hand. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could literally meet her, but she's not necessarily going to go, dude, I got to have you now. Bam. Right. Or do that classic scene that we were all very fond of. So, yeah.
Right. So the interesting thing, though, is if I start imagining for somebody like Sharon Stone, I have this incredible success rate. Like, I will meet somebody that is like Sharon Stone or better, and it's the same vibrational, and my chances are better that we will have an interaction that's positive. I don't know. I think everything is an experiment when we talk about stuff like this a little bit.
I do, and I find oftentimes there is a level of frustration to people because I've been through breakups. All right, I would honestly say I've probably been in love with my fifth time, right? And I've been in love. The earliest I think was probably 13 or 14, right? So I've done this a few times. Every single time I've ever broken up in a relationship, I wanted that person back more than life itself, and I would have sold my soul to the devil to have that.
Me too. So I would, if a magician came along and said, here's a love spell and it'll cost you $20,000.
Yeah, I would have done it. I would have robbed the liquor store.
Write the check.
Yeah.
Right.
And ultimately, it ends up not happening, and that's part of going through the stages of grief, is the bargaining, right? And you go through that whole part, and unfortunately, there's a lot of pain that's experienced. This was something I was explaining to my girlfriend, because she's not had to go through stuff like this. And it's like, but when I've met other people and fallen in love again, it was different, and I want to say broader and larger, because my understanding of love had grown. And so it was an interesting evolution. So unfortunately, yes, I do get how sometimes people want a specific person, but to your point, and I agree with you completely, it's the ideology of that person that I really want. Or it's someone just like that person, but maybe the parts of them that aren't working right now, like they don't text you back right now. So maybe this version that's like them also texts, me back or does whatever. And I think that's where people could have what they want right now, but because they're saying, universe, it has to happen this way only, no other way, will I accept what I want is accept through this. And it becomes a very limiting way to manifest. And that is why some people have a challenge manifesting a specific person, because maybe that part of their life, that path is done or whatever. And they should be open to a new experience. And
well, the funny thing is, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I feel like you're saving me. I feel like I'm drowning.
The funny thing is, the elephant in the room is I'll be talking to some people and they have never talked to the specific person.
Is there an elephant behind me?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But like sometimes you just need to give them a call. Like I'll talk to somebody and they're doing all this work and trying to manifest a specific person, and they know them, and all it is just a fear of just going up and shaking their hand and saying, "Hey, let's go to dinner sometime." Like they're separating themselves from the most important part, which is they need to just go introduce themselves. There's no magic involved.
I think there's some people that literally are trying to manifest someone they like, just fantasizing about them incessantly, and then finally walking up to them and going, "You have to be my girlfriend," and they're going to be like, "Awesome!" No way that's happening in real life, dude, because you're ending up in jail the times you do that. Like that, I mean, again, it's just such a crazy, it's not how relationships happen. It's not how friendships happen. It's not how people interact with each other. I know we've got this weird, like, I post a picture and within 115 minutes, I've got thousands of likes or whatever, or I post a video and within, an hour and a half, there's, thousands of watches. Like it's not like that when it comes to human beings. It's human time. You sit and watch sunsets together. You burn candles and they slowly go down, and you wait for the pizza guy to show up while you got the movie on. Like their relationships happen in human time, and that's what's so awesome about them. It's not I want to just get straight to marriage. It's like, I want to have a relationship. Or the best analogy I think I can come up with, though you might have kids, I don't, but is taking a child, having a child, like I want to have a baby, right? And the second they're like 3 months old, immediately making them 18. Like,
yeah, perfect. Yes,
you would miss everything.
You're missing all the good parts.
Oh my God, the things that you're going to remember for the rest of your life I just rushed through it. No, it's the journey with your child as they slip and fall, as they say their first words, as they just all the crazy stuff that's part of that experience. And people want to rush to the end, but it's the race. I will say this, and this is, I'm teasing, and this I'm doing a video on, but at least I'm getting credit for saying it now. The law and the promise, how I see it, not to go back totally, but I think it's germane. The law to me is like the speed limit, right? It's the rules. This is how it works. Right. The promise to me is the journey. That's what I feel like the promise was. If you do the law, if you follow the law, if you understand how the law works, you will experience the journey. That's the promise. Yes. The promise you will have your desire. And so that's where I think Neville spent the rest of his life. And I really want to know what happened. I don't know how well you know him either, but like 72, right? He died. He was doing speeches and writing books in 72. Right up into the end. Yeah.
So I'm excited to talk to Mitch Horowitz, who's a historian, who's kind of looked into that. And I want to know too, I want to know what's happening during that end period with Neville and what other interactions and what he was like, because I really want to know. There's a part of me that wants to know what was going on.
Did he find out he got sick? Did he just drop? Did he?
I want to know. Did he just say, "Hey, I'm ready to go"?
Check out.
Is there
like,
some
died in 3 days, which would be rad. I mean, that would, you
would
know,
be
like,
cool,
right? If I can go that way, I totally want to too. That'd be awesome. Like, yeah, no, I think I think Friday next week
he
I'm gonna
knows
go.
that it's coming.
Yeah,
he is saying he knows it's coming.
That's why people get a little like, you know, they want to know all the specifics, but it's like, I know he was into esoteric stuff. I can tell by the way he writes, by the way he shifts the audience, by the way he's trying to move people. And people are like, well, by what? And I'm like, one is teacher, Abdullah or whatever. But what books did he read? I'm not 100% sure, but like for me and you talked about it too. Jane Roberts was a weirdly book that kind of stepped me in that. And then there's all sorts of other stuff that kind of, but again, it's like different for all of us. But ultimately, you end up getting into some of that deeper material and really learning some interesting things about humans and souls and life.
You get the impression that Neville was just loved esoteric literature and Gnosticism, anything, you know, he's reading all that. I desperately want to know more about Abdullah. Yeah, I really do. The question I've had come up in a couple of interviews, there's a tiny chance that Abdullah didn't exist. There's a tiny chance that Abdullah he used him as a method of his teaching. there may be a picture of him on the internet. You know, Mitch Horowitz has a recent book where he's thinking about this possibility. Like maybe, I think he's probably real the way he talked about him. But if he wasn't, that would be cool too. If he wasn't,
have you read Dan Millman by chance?
I have. The Journey, the Warriors,
The Way of the Peaceful Warriors. So Socrates was supposedly real because he wrote a follow-up book, which is amazing, by the way. But but that being said, it's kind of similar because there's you know, it could have been sort of a somewhat
or even Carlos
creature.
Castaneda with Don Juan Matus. It's a popular thing in literature to create as a way of explaining a spiritual understanding by creating a mentor. It could be true or not.
Well, and to give it realness. I think that's the other side of it. By perceiving it as an actual person, it's not nearly as crazy as saying, hey, so I used to talk to this voice in my head and I learned some neat stuff. You know, it's like, okay, let's try to market that a little differently. So I
even
agree.
with people that channel, sometimes when they're saying somebody else is saying this, then you tend to listen. If I'm saying it, oh, you're just some dude.
Yeah.
So it adds credibility to it. I have no problem with it. I'm listening to the message itself, and I'm feeling my own resonance with what is actually being said.
And that's what matters. And that truly, that's the takeaway. And I agree with you 100%. Again, the law of confusion exists for a very solid reason. And yes, what's your takeaway? You got nothing to lose by listening to someone's thoughts that might sound crazy. I mean, I don't want to get into that because it actually upsets people. But there's some thoughts out there that people are having right now about the way things are and that are a little outlandish. But whatever, like, you know, let's entertain them. Let's see what you got to say. But it doesn't mean I got to believe them. So.
Right.
Yeah.